time to get your fix. Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Wow.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and welcome back to another horrible game review. So, as usual, a few couple disclaimers before we get into it. Number one, these are snap judgment reviews. The word horrible in the title of this content does not necessarily refer to the game or DLC that I am reviewing, but instead the actual content itself. I'm only doing a few hours in each game, although I did get more with this one before doing the review. And I'm just trying to give you an idea if you're going to enjoy this game right off the rip. Because of that, I do not give scored reviews on video games. I don't actually believe in scored reviews on video games. I think it's one of the most subjective forms of art. So therefore, you will get an overview of what the game is. I will tell you the pros and the cons of the game and my point of view, as all reviews are. And then I'll tell you whether or not I will be sticking with this game past the purposes of this review. Alright, all that out of the way. My review today is Sea of Thieves. And you're probably asking yourself, what am I doing reviewing a game that's, 3 years old at this point? 3 years old? Maybe 4? I don't know. I just got into it. So, hey, I figured I'd review it. It's content for the channel, and it is a review I have never, ever tried to do. So, I figured why not put it out there and see what you guys think. Plus, I'm guessing there's not a whole lot of people doing reviews for this in 2021. So what is Sea of Thieves? Well, Sea of Thieves is kind of a pirate simulator with kind of a cartoony feel to it. It is a rare make game, so there is a lot of cartooniness to it, cartooniness to the animation, cartooniness to the characters. But overall, the idea is when you load in, you get to pick what your base pirate looks like. The character creator isn't that great. It just kind of gives you these random stock images that you can then just kind of pick one. Once you pick your pirate, it's first-person view only, and then you load into a random outpost on the same map. Your ship is spawned, and then you go sailing. What's interesting about this is every time you load into the game, it is a different instance. All the islands are once again different, have different loot on them, different whatever, but the map itself stays the same. And a big factor is it has to be online. This is multiplayer only. So when you jack into your map, there are plenty of other pirates and pirate crews out there jacking into the map as well. When you choose to load in, you can pick from 3 different types of boats. You can pick from a sloop, quick, small, and easy to manage. A brigantine, which is larger, has more endurance, but harder to manage. And then a galleon, which has the most power, the most guns, but very difficult to manage, impossible to manage without a team. Whereas a sloop can actually even be managed by just one person, which a lot of the playtime that I put into this game was alone. The game is for more or less 2 to 4 players on a crew. What's interesting about this game is, as far as the story goes, there isn't one. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of written out events and written out activities for you to do. But really, they just kind of drop you into it and tell you to just go do your thing. There is not a whole lot of tutorial. There is a Maiden Voyage thing. But honestly, when I logged in, the Maiden Voyage was kind of hard to find right off the bat. So they don't really tell you a whole lot. You'll spend your time working for one of 5 different factions. The idea is you get quests for them and you turn in goods to them. The quests are nice and they do give you bonus reputation and bonus money, but honestly, you can just get on your boat, point it in a direction, sail, pick stuff up, and as long as you know which goods get sold to which person, you'll get reputation that way. Now, and one thing this game does have in spades is stuff to do. It didn't in the beginning, but now it does. There are tall tales, which are longer, scripted, kind of brain teaser quests that kind of take you down a story almost. Then there's, of course, skeleton ships to hunt. random events to take on, ghost ship armadas, skull raids, skeleton fortresses, and then of course just looting and fighting other players who are sailing around. It's very interesting in that fact that there's just so much stuff to do, and they really don't give you a compass. They say, hey, you're in the world, go do what you want. You will spend most of your time grinding stuff out for money, as well as reputation. The overall goal is to get the highest reputation, which I believe is level 50, with 3 of the 5 factions. And that, I believe, makes you a pirate legend, which comes with its own kind of endgame stuff. I have not reached this stuff, nor do I know a lot about it, but I have put a lot of hours in to the game itself. And there is just, like I said, tons of stuff to do. The PvP was a little frightening at first, a little intimidating, especially since I don't log in with a lot of other people often. But I did find that it wasn't that bad. Usually there's only like 2 or 3 other ships, and even the worst time when there was 2 Reaver ships, Reavers being the player characters who hunt other players, I only got attacked once, and the map is big enough that you can relatively avoid them if you want to and if you're smart about it. And almost that kind of became an interesting game in itself, just avoiding other ships to get my booty back because I couldn't compete in a fight since it was just me on a boat. One thing that I do want to point out that is pretty much locked behind multiplayer play is the ship battles. As much as these are some of the most rewarding moments of the game, everything on a ship, and I have to state this clearly, everything on the ship is done manually. From the slow trudge of raising the anchor, to loading and firing the cannonballs, to steering, to angling the sails, to raising and lowering the sails, to reading the map. There is no mini-map to operate on. Everything has to be done and coordinated between you and your teammates. And while you can make a sloop work by yourself relatively decently, you cannot make it fight very well. It is one of the interesting things that Sea of Thieves brings to the table as far as multiplayer goes, because it really does make you feel those traversal moments and make them a little bit more entertaining because you're with your friends and you're coordinating such a movement. I found just steering to be one of the more fun parts of the game, even when I'm on stream with Jason and Danny. Jason calling out directions and me trying to follow them is an interesting mechanic that keeps the traveling kind of new. Combat is very simple and straightforward. It's just aim, fire for the guns. There are 3 different types of guns: a handheld pistol, a blunderbuss, which operates kind of like a shotgun, and a long-range sniper rifle type thing. And then, of course, there's swordplay. But the swordplay boils down to a series of quick attacks, or you can hold it down for a powered attack, which opens you up while you're charging it. And then, of course, you can block, and timing those blocks will open up your enemy. For the most part, that's it. That's what this game is. You go in, you set sail, you set a goal, and then you accomplish it, or don't. It's very interesting in that way. With death goes as you die. You spend a little time on a ferry, an ethereal ferry, before spawning back to your ship. So the only really way you lose things is if your ship is actually sunk, because then when you spawn, your ship respawns and you to a completely different place very far away on the map, so you kind of lose all your things. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's head to pros and cons and all that. Pros first. I like to go positive first. Right off the bat, the interactivity and the attention to detail in this game is amazing. I mean, everything you can think to interact with, you can interact with. You see a fish, you can catch it. You see some grubs, you can use them for bait. You can play instruments, you can get into cannons. There's so many different ways to just interact with the world around you that I found fun and interesting and fresh. I mean, they even put a mechanic to carrying some crates, where some of the crates kind of make things like one of the things that you'll be asked to cart back and forth, but for the Merchants Guild, are plants. They obscure your vision when you're walking around. The attention to detail, stuff like that, is just so good in this game. My personal favorite example of the attention to detail is the battle damage on the boat. As your boat takes damage, it springs leaks, which will make it take on water. You can repair those leaks with wooden boards, and then you have to bail out the water to keep the boat afloat. But what's interesting is the damage on the outside never truly heals. When you take a hit to that paint job, that paint is scratched and scarred. When your wheel gets shot by a cannonball, yes, your wheel, it takes damage, and you actually repair it with different like stakes and tie-ons, so your wheel never looks fully whole again. That kind of stuff just is so cool to me that the ship doesn't just go back to its perfect, pristine condition. It looks like it's been sailed around and been in some fights. My next pro is going to seem like a small pro, but it is truly a glorious one, and it's one that inspires me with wonder every time they enter the game, and that is the water. I know that seems so simple and small, but I have never played a game that makes me actually feel like I'm swimming. From the sound effect of me going under the water, from the way the underwater current moves me, from the way the waves change and splash, the water looks amazing, looks and sounds amazing, and that's one of the most joy I've taken from this game, is just that initial moment where I raise the anchor on my boat and I take it out to sea and just watch it sail. It's just beautiful, and I love games that inspire me with that wonder. And while this is just a very simple detail, it is easily the best water I've ever seen in gaming, and a true wonder to behold. I urge anybody who has the opportunity to just boot this up, even if it's not a game for you, just boot it up and just jump in the water for a few minutes and then delete it off your hard drive, because it's worth it just to see the water in this game. My next pro is the sheer volume of things to do. This game may not have started with a lot of stuff to do, but at this point in 2021, there is no end of things to explore and find. From crazy giant captains being summoned and spawned that you have to fight for hours, to megalodons and kraken that are out there that'll just come up on you at any time, to shipwrecks, to treasure chests, to tall tales. It's just, there's never a lack of stuff to do in this game, and I love games like that. I love games that just give you tons of content to just constantly explore. My final pro is the fully realized world. This is kind of a hard one to kind of encapsulate into a single pro, but I love games that just give you a world to play in, and Sea of Thieves has really done that. It has plenty of downsides, which we're about to talk about, but I want to hammer home before we get to that how cool it is to just log in and be a pirate for a few hours. And this game really makes you feel that way. Of course, like I said, there's definitely issues and we're going to talk about it. But at least in the initial onset, it really does just get on a boat and sail and travel and explore this interesting, crazy world that they've got set in front of you. Because of that, the moment-to-moment gameplay and the storytelling is just so wonderful. I'm going to recant a story that I had where I was alone taking a simple cargo run to an island. I was headed towards that island. I got attacked by a skeleton ship. It was a long fight. I ended up getting sunk, but I ended up jumping to the skeleton ship and taking out their captain and sinking the ship. And the rowboat itself actually had all my cargo on it, and it stayed afloat, so I actually could row that to the island. I was close enough, and still make my delivery before respawning. That kind of moment-to-moment unique gameplay, you just have to love that. You have to love when a game can provide that for you. Okay, now we got to do it. We got to step into the cons. We got to go negative. All right, the biggest con in this game, and anybody who has done any research on this game before this will already know it, because I'm going to echo it. There is a motivational lack issue in this game. What I mean is, in one hand, it's almost a pro, because what they've done in this is every statistical thing that you have, everybody has right off the bat. So everybody has access to a sniper rifle, a pistol, a blunderbuss, a sword. They all have access to a boat, and all of the boats do the same thing. So if you pick a galleon, it's no different from anybody else's galleon, which means that all the loot that you acquire, all the things you get in the game are cosmetic. Once, moreover, you don't actually acquire the loot out, you acquire money to purchase the loot, to purchase stuff. And the purchases are all cosmetic. They don't affect the stats at all. Yeah, they make your gun look cooler, they make your character look cooler, they make your ship look cooler, but they do not give you bonuses, they don't give you perks, they don't level you up in any way, shape, or form. The reasoning that they did this is partially kind of genius, because then nobody can ever complain that you need to nerf something or buff something. Newbies aren't hunted by the experienced players and unable to ever get in. There is no gap to entry on this game for that. You start in, you have basically the same weapons available as anybody else except for experience, and that's really cool. The problem that this creates, though, is games inherently need you. They're there to make you feel like you're accomplishing something. Like, that's what games do. Whether it's a game that's level based, where you're trying to get to that next level till you get to the end, or whether it's a game that's a looter, where you're trying to like make that build, get that next up stat, get those numbers higher, or even an RPG, getting the experience to level up your character. None of that exists here. The only thing that is there to give you is this money to purchase cooler shirts. And for gamers, that creates a why am I doing this kind of moment a little bit into the game. Now, again, while I've experienced this, it hasn't deterred me because of the content that's available, plus the moment-to-moment gameplay just has been enough to keep me involved. But there is still a point where I'm like, okay, now I've got 80,000 gold, I have everything that I want. What's the point of getting another chest? Why am I getting excited that I got so many chests from killing that amazing captain? And the drops are amazing. When you do something amazing, they give you chest upon chest upon chest. I was playing a stream recently with Danny and Jason where we killed this pirate lord, and he dropped tons of chests. So many, it took us almost a half an hour to move it to the boat and then back to the island. But at the end of the day, what's that money good for? I gotta say, I don't know how exactly you fix that. I mean, there are a couple of things that I would rather them lock behind quests than gold purchases or premium currency purchases that might help this, such as the pets. They have the pets locked behind premium currency right now, which you can grind out, but very, very slowly. It's there for you to try and buy them. I think it would have been much cooler to make some sort of quest about finding the birds or whatever. I think it would also be cooler if some of the things that you could purchase are actually instead tied to looting them or finding them in tall tales or different missions out in the world. That might increase the motivation a little bit, instead of just, hey, this is another thing for you to get gold for to purchase the thing that you want. It takes the fun out of it. But even with that, it would still kind of have the same issues. And then finally, the ship balance is a little off. What I'm saying there is, if you are in a sloop, you cannot take a galleon with 4 people on it. It's just not going to happen. It's impossible. Now, don't get me wrong, it shouldn't be easy, but it should be within the realm of possibility. And in a way, this hurts people who are just 2 guys who always get to play, or just 2 people who only get to play. That means they can never take on that galleon. They can never go after that skeleton galleon. They're going to get knocked out, or they have to get really, really good. That's a high wall. So that's my final con, I think, of the game. Alright, that brings us to whether or not I'm going to stick with it, and honestly, I'm kind of obsessed with this game right now. Whether I'm playing on stream with Danny and Jason, whether I'm with Filthy Phil at night on a 2-man sloop just getting into trouble, or whether I'm just alone trying to stealth my way around ships to get the orders through, or just out sailing to fish. This game just has so much to do. It has so much to offer, and I just love that. I love being in this world. I love sandbox games. Will I tire of it? Oh, most definitely. But it's also one that I feel like I'm going to be coming back to for many years to come, even if I give it breaks. So Hope that helped you guys. Hope that helped you make a decision whether you want to get involved. If you have Games Pass, it's free to try, and I urge you to do so. I do want to say one thing I kind of failed to mention in the cons that I'll put here. If you do decide to play it with someone who's already played it before. The tutorial just doesn't do it justice, and it's even hard to find at the beginning. This game really drops you in the middle without really telling you what to do, where to go, or how to do it. So you'll be watching a lot of videos online, video tutorials of what you should be doing. And that's a little bit irritating, unless you know somebody who's already in the game who can play with it, who can play with you and show you the ropes. And hey, if you want me to do it, that's fine too. Join our Discord below, and I'll be happy to show you the ropes the minute I'm on. I would love to sail with you. So, that being said, I'm going to wrap this thing up. You guys can talk to us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. As I just mentioned, join our Discord. Links in the description below. You can influence this and all of our shows from there. You can play with us, and who knows, you could be on our shows. We love to pluck people from the community. We're very community forward. But as long as you guys keep watching and listening, we'll keep making it. I'm sorry this one went long. I'm still rusty on the reviews. See you guys next week.